The LA Clippers, their season is over, and what a crazy, crazy year it was for them. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Kawhi Leonard leaving, this team being down 0-2 in a series against Dallas after losing their first two games at home. And now here we are a few weeks later. They were 2 games away from making a finals appearance. But in this video, we're going to be kind of recapping their season and looking forward to what they can do this offseason to improve the roster, what decisions they have to make, of course, with Kawhi Leonard becoming a free agent. All those things are what we're going to talk about in today's video. If you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. Let's go and get into it. Okay, so quick little recap here. Crazy, crazy year for the Clippers. After what happened to them last year in the bubble, nobody was really going to take this team seriously at all up until they actually proved otherwise. I mean, losing the 3-1 series lead to Denver last year when they were 1 game away from making their first conference finals in franchise history and playing the Lakers in the Battle of LA that everybody anticipated for the entire season, they folded in the bubble. Then we go to the playoffs this year. They tank for a seed that allows them to play Dallas in the first round because they felt good about the matchup against Dallas, and then they lose the first 2 games at home. Down 0-2 in the first round, somehow come back and win that series in 7. They win 3 of the 4 games, or they win all 3 road games in that series. They win Game 7 at home. Then they go into the next round and face the 1 seed, the Utah Jazz, a team with the longest winning streak in the league during the season, the number 1 overall seed in the entire NBA. And guess what? They lose the first 2 games. Not at home this time, but they lose the first 2 games in the series and then win 4 straight, including a ridiculous comeback in an elimination game in Game 6 without Kawhi Leonard. Then we go to the conference finals. They play the Phoenix Suns, a team that, apart from a healthy Clippers team, is the best team left in the playoffs, in my opinion. And they take 2 games off of them, and they are just 2 games away from making the finals. Once again, without Kawhi Leonard on the team because he hurt his knee, and we still don't really have an indication of what exactly he did to hurt himself. But it was a knee injury. Zubac didn't play the last 2 games either. And despite making the first conference finals in franchise history, the Clippers were unable to make their first finals. So now their season is over. So what have we learned from this year about the Clippers before we go into the offseason? Well, Paul George had some really good playoff moments. Granted, he missed some free throws in some games, and that ultimately cost the Clippers some games that could have gotten them to the finals. But when this team really needed him to step up when Kawhi went out, Paul George was awesome. Reggie Jackson had crazy, crazy good moments. I remember watching Reggie Jackson the year that he got bought out from Detroit, missing threes off the backboard. Reggie Jackson looked done. Even when he showed up to LA, he looked done. But this year, specifically in the postseason, he was awesome. He was incredible. And then, of course, we had the Terrence Mann game, which was super, super fun against Utah. And we learned that this Clippers team is more resilient than we thought. We learned that Ty Lue was a very good coach in the postseason when it comes to making adjustments, even though it might take him a little while to do so, going down 0-2 in the first 2 series of this postseason. And ultimately, I think there's just a little bit more to this Clippers team, a little bit more substance than we thought going back to the bubble last year with the collapse. Unfortunately, it's still probably going to be looked at as 2 pretty significant missed opportunities with the bubble collapse last year and then this year with Kawhi's injury. I think this Clippers team, if they are fully healthy, has every chance to beat the Suns and every chance to beat any team that was left in the East at the time that Kawhi got hurt. So it's unfortunate that they couldn't make more of a run here due to some injury stuff, but it was a really, really good year for them. So now we look at the offseason, right? And the one question everybody was anticipating is what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard in free agency. A couple of weeks ago, like I said, they're down 0-2 to the Mavs. They lose their first 2 games at home. It looks like things are not going to go well for them at all. At that point, I'm anticipating the possibility of Kawhi Leonard leaving in free agency, which has a whole different series of domino effects, potentially a Paul George trade, all these different things. As of today, as the Clippers season has just ended, I'm very confident Kawhi Leonard is going to stay with the Clippers. The only reason he would have left his preferred destination of LA, a team that he was kind of lobbying to get to for a while. The only reason he would have left would have been because of a lack of team success, that being losing in the first round to a Dallas team that this franchise actively chose to play and get a matchup against. And then for them to lose would have potentially pushed him towards Miami or New York. That didn't happen. They made the first conference finals in franchise history. They played incredibly well even without Kawhi out there, and I just don't see a scenario in which Kawhi looks at what just happened in this postseason run and decides to go somewhere else. Now, It could happen. I just would be surprised personally. In terms of the other things they have going on this offseason, they do have a couple of relatively interesting free agents here. We've got Reggie Jackson, who again was very, very good for this team. Nick Batum, same thing. And yeah, that's about it. It's just those two guys. It's Kawhi, and not a whole lot else going on for them this offseason in terms of free agency. The problem is they are up near $150 million in payroll for this season, so it's not like they can add anything, and they're going to have to be going very, very high into the luxury tax to retain guys like Reggie Jackson, Nick Batum. No idea what those guys' value is, because it's just very odd for players that are that have kind of recovered their careers the way that they have to now be entering free agency and trying to figure out what to value them when it comes to free agency. But I would assume they would try and do everything they can to bring those guys back, and then they're going to get the typical LA minimums and mid-level exception guys, just like when they got Batum and when they got Reggie Jackson as a buyout player. Typically, if you're in LA, you get the advantage of signing guys to minimum deals that typically wouldn't take minimum deals other places. They're clearly a legitimate title team when fully healthy, so they'll add some pieces around the edges. Apart from that, in terms of places where they could possibly improve, there is an interesting scenario that exists here. They've got some expirings for the 2022 offseason that they could possibly use in a trade in addition to their pick this year. They can trade the pick once they actually select a player. They can't trade it as a pick because they owe so many future picks to other teams. But when you look at some of the expirings they have and how they fit together, in addition to this pick, this is a really interesting possible Kevin Love destination for me. I know Kevin Love is not a guy we typically think about, in the trade market all that often. But the reason he's still in Cleveland is because the Cavs view him as a positive asset, a guy that they should be getting value back for in the form of a draft pick or a young player, whereas other teams around the league view him as a negative asset, a guy that you would need to give them picks or a pick or a asset just to take on the Kevin Love contract. But the Clippers are in a unique scenario where their expirings match up really well with Kevin Love's salary, and he's probably the only guy around the league that's a significant difference maker potentially when fully healthy that they could get for just a late first-round pick and all these other expiring. So that is an option I would expect them to explore and that I think would be really, really cool. I have advocated for this for 2 years, that I think Kevin Love, when fully healthy, when engaged, when locked in, when in a situation that motivates him to be a really good NBA player, can be very helpful to a team. I think Kevin Love can still be that guy. Not Cleveland level Kevin Love, but he can shoot, he can provide a post-scoring presence, and they have a spot for him there in LA, where you go into next year with Zubats, whatever guard it is, probably Reggie Jackson, Kawhi, Paul George, and Kevin Love. The other thing that I would like to see them explore is a little bit more versatility at the 5 spot. I don't know what the future of Serge Ibaka with the Clippers is. He's got a player option for next season. He's a guy that I'm sure they would like to have back, but only if he's fully healthy and actually able to contribute. He was supposed to be the versatile 5-man option that they could use against players like Donovan Mitchell, against players like Luka Doncic, and he just wasn't healthy at the end of the year. And if he's going to continue to not be healthy, that is a position that they need to address, because even though the small ball lineup worked really well for them in the postseason, you'd like to have another option other than just throwing Zubats out there. And so that is something I would expect them to explore. Again, everything kind of depends on what happens with Kawhi this offseason. Things have changed dramatically in that area over the last couple of weeks. And again, I would expect him to stay. If for some reason Kawhi Leonard decides to leave and go to a different team, which again, I would be shocked, then we're looking at a scenario where we've got a possible Paul George trade. The other contracts on the roster look really, really bad. And then things kind of fall apart. And as soon as the Clippers started to get some hope and make a conference finals, then their best player leaves in free agency, which would be a very traditionally Clippers thing to have happen. But again, I don't think that would be kind of what would go down. The only other option they have here is they do have a couple of longer-term contracts. Guys like Luke Kennard, guys like Marcus Morris. Zubats has another year on his contract as well. They could look to move, one or a couple of those guys to get a bigger, a higher contract value player. I'm just spitballing here. Let's just say Bradley Beal gets traded. Maybe they could go out and get Russ for contracts that are shorter and cheaper and the first. I don't know. That's just a complete spitball thing. Ultimately, in terms of realistic things, the Clippers are going to try and do the minimum thing in free agency. They're going to look to move a couple of their expirings like Pat Bev for next year in that pick to get somebody. I would anticipate Kevin Love being a possible target there, and then they go from there. But ultimately, I think where I land with the Clippers is I respect them and Paul George way more now than I did coming into the year. They were the team that I picked last year to win the title. That didn't happen. And I honestly think that if Kawhi was fully healthy this year, they would have had every chance to make the finals. I don't know that they would have beaten Phoenix. I think Phoenix is very, very good. But if Kawhi was fully healthy, this series that went 6 games probably, would go 7, and that would be, a very, very interesting scenario to kind of see play out, although Phoenix, of course, would get the Game 7 at home. So congrats to the Clippers on a great season, on really changing our minds about them, really, and to Paul George as well, and changing our minds about him and about what he can or can't do in the postseason. And ultimately, I think that as long as Kawhi stays, this is going to be a team that's going to continue to be a threat to win a title for at least a couple of more years now, assuming everybody stays healthy. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what they can do to maneuver around that. With those things said, that is going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like rating on it. Consider subscribing for more NBA content every single day, and you can check out more videos from me as well at the boxes on the screen. Once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.